In this tutorial, you will learn some common ways that JSX and React components work together. So for that, we have created a React component called greeting that renders a single line of HTML code. But what if we wanted to print multiple lines of code? The difference will be that we would have to add parentheses in the return statement. So just to show an example, I will add another line of code. So let's say world. And we will wrap all of this inside a div element. So just to have an outer element. So then we add the parentheses. So let's save this. As you can see, we're getting this as a result. So this means that when we have a multiple line JSX expression, we would always have to wrap this inside parentheses. In the second lesson, we will learn how to use variable attributes inside a component. For that, we will use a picture as an example, and we will create an object filled with the required properties. So I have imported a picture here, and now we'll create an object called big tiger. And then inside the object, we'll create some attributes like source. So this will be equal to tiger. Height, this will be equal to, let's say, 200 pixels. And then we have width. This will be equal to 300 pixels. So once we have done that, we go on creating a class component. So class, let's call it tiger, and we extend this to React component. Inside the component body, we add the render method, and then we will return multiple lines. So we add parentheses, and we'll add an outer element as a div. So what we will add here will be header element, like let's say this is a big tiger, and after this we will add an image tag. So inside the image tag we will add the required attribute, so let's say source, and we will set it equal to the object property, so big tiger source. So we are injecting the value from here and we are adding this here. So let's add height, and the same thing applies to width. Big tiger width. Alright, so once we have done that, we go on rendering these class components. So let's write, let's refresh it. As you can see, we're getting these as a result. So what we have done here, we have basically taken the object properties from the big tiger object and we have injected them inside the image tag as an attribute. It means that the image tag has the same attributes as the object named big tiger. In the previous lesson, we have learned that a render function must have a return statement, but that is not all that it can have. We can use the render method to put in simple calculations that need to happen before a component renders. In this example, I have created a logic inside the render function. Then I have returned the logic with a return keyword inside the header element. So later on using React, you might make the mistake putting the logic declaration before the render method. This will cause a syntax error because the declaration should not occur outside the render method. So let me show you another example of how we can put logic inside the render method. For that, I'm going to delete all of this and then I will create a new component called greetings. Once I'm done with that, I will create a let variable, also called greetings, inside the render method. And I will also return two header elements. So first I'm going to leave them blank. So then I will create an array called greeting. This array will be set equal to square brackets wrapping three curly brackets separated with a comma. Inside the curly brackets we will add two properties. And one will be called language and one will be called phrase. So I'm going to fill them with some text. So once I'm done with this, we will set the let variable equal to greeting 0. Inside the header element, we will inject the two properties that we have created. Inside the two header elements, we are going to inject the first two properties of the array for each one of them. Once we are done with that, we go on rendering the class component greetings. So now we are getting the first two values of the array. If we change the logic that has been implemented inside the variable greetings from 1 to 0, we will get the next two values. So we have learned how to create logic inside the render function. Now we'll learn how to use conditionals inside of it. In this example, I have created a simple React component that does return the task depending on the conditional. You will notice that the if statement is located inside the render function, but before the return statement. This is pretty much the only way that you will see an if statement used in a render function.